Hi everyone. So good morning. You all able to hear me well?
Yes, sorry. Good morning. You're audible. Good morning, Sri.
Yeah.
Good morning, Hari.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Hari. Yes, sorry. So we have reviewed your profile. So thanks for applying. So now let's go for a technical interview for today. Yeah, before starting with some technical questions, can you tell about yourself? Just to know.
Sure. My name Hari, as you said. So I'm working as a senior cloud consultant, where I'm having around 12 years of experience overall in my career. And that 12 years, right? Close to 10 years, right? I'm working in hybrid cloud environment where we are taking care of AWS, Azure, GCP, and as well as DevOps as well. In DevOps, I have a good exposure with Jenkins, Kubernetes, Docker, and Terraform, CloudFormation, Boto3 scripting, Python automations. So GitLab, something we are getting into GitLab. So these are the area where I'm working technically. Basically, I'm from Chennai. This is the background about me. So currently, I'm working in Accenture. So we are providing 24/7 support to one of our customer. Our customer is based out of Finance-based company. They are currently located in Australia and Netherlands. These are the locations of my client. Due to some confidential reasons, right, I couldn't tell you my exact client name, but this is the high level. So this is the area which I'm working and all those things.
Thanks, Hari. Nice to know about you. Thank you. Yeah. So hope we can start it now. Yes, Satish, I can start from your end.
Yes, sir. Tell me about your current infrastructure.
Hi, Satish. So about my current infrastructure, right? Yeah. So coming to my environment, in my 12 years of career, right, I worked around 6 to 7 different projects. All of them mostly belongs to AWS. About my current infrastructure, right, we have close to 300 plus accounts. Okay, individual AWS account. We are managing AWS organization master account. On that AWS master account, we have linked all the Spark accounts. So here, right, all the accounts are each other privately has a communication. We have VPN and the peering transit gateway we are using for the communication between all these 300 dedicated accounts. In that 300 accounts, close to 100 accounts are production accounts. We are using sandbox, pre-prod accounts, and development account, testing accounts, applications account. This way we have segregated. Okay, so majorly, right, we are having centralized log mechanism where we use Splunk and we use ELK stack for managing the log. And we have a monitoring as well as we use New Relic and SolarWind as a tool for monitoring. And we have a team as a hierarchy like L1, L2, L3. L1 team basically they out of monitoring. L2 team is a SME team. So currently I am playing the role of architect come consultant, where I used to directly communicate with the customers. I'll get the requirement from the customer, as well as for my company, right, when there is any new project scopes are coming, I'll be directly interacting with my team, and I'll be directly interacting with the customer. I'm getting all these things are getting done. So full-fledged, right, we are providing end-to-end setup for our customers, and it's highly secured. This is all about my infrastructure, Satish.
Thanks, Hari.
Yes, Hari, very good explanation. Nice. Yeah, regarding the same, can you tell about how to optimize the every month bill in your AWS account? I'm talking about what is the cost saving you can do in your infrastructure.
Okay, so coming to cost optimization, right? Basically, we have a Lambda in place. Lambda in the sense we have a Lambda which will closely monitor our sandbox account and application, whichever the testing purpose we're like, whatever the instances we are using, right? The Lambda, we have a script that will weekend it will go for shutting down state when engineers are back to the work, right? Monday probably it will turn on. Some unused instances we'll plan to stop and start. By the way, right, we are saving the cost. Apart from that, we use AWS Trusted Advisor and we do have even third-party tools. There is something called Spot.io. Using those tools, right, it will suggest actually whether what the applications has been hosted in the EC2 instance, whether it is consistently consuming the hardware with the perspective of memory and CPU. If any application not overutilizing, we have over provisioned hardware, is there anything available? Right? My tool will suggest me to downgrade the hardware. By the way, we'll go for downgrading it, and we are more focused on EKS based Kubernetes cluster environments. When my Kubernetes clusters, right, when not all the nodes are over provisioned, any kind of nodes are over provisioned, any application less utilizing, that kind of worker node will reduce the size of my cluster worker node level. And also mostly we'll go with trusted advisor, whichever the things is suggestion. And the Spot.io, the dedicated paid tool, we are enabled in our environment, since we have close to more than 300 plus accounts, right? In that case, it will be really good when I have a Spot.io kind of tool. The tool will suggest, for the long run, the tool can suggest what's needful action to be taken care, and what automation we have done for reducing the cost cutting. So whichever the suggestion we are receiving from the Spot.io, and cross-region class availability zone data transfer. That way, we are going deep dive. We are reducing the cost. These are the several processors involved. We have a dedicated team for that. These are the way we are managing and optimizing our cost in our project. By the way, we are showing every month, we are showing our customer that highlights. Every month we used to show them around that $30,000 to $40,000 every month we are saving for our customer. We are taking that as a dedication work, and we are doing it consistently. These are the strategy we follow for now.
Yeah. What is the simplest way which you know to migrate on-premise database server to the AWS cloud?
Okay, simplest way. So coming to migration, right? We can involve in a different. It depends on the application. If you're a general service, we do have CLI based option. We have some third-party tools from our on-premise environment, or it can be a virtualized environment, VMware or Hyper-V. From the VM level, I need to install that such particular agents. Whatever the applications are currently running, right? I'll be capturing that as a image kind of data. It will be application oriented format. I'll push that data to my S3 bucket. We have some set of commands, the CLI commands will involve. From S3 bucket, I'll convert that taken backup as a AMI format. From the AMI format, I could create my instance, okay, whichever the region I want. So this is the bigger process, of course. We have a dedicated migration strategy and migration process are available, but very high level, I'm telling. If you would like to go on deep dive, I'm ready to go, but I'll tell you on high level. So from on-prem or virtual environment, the respective VM I'll identify based on the migration strategy what we applied for this migration. We'll be capturing that data, and we are pushing into S3 bucket of the format, wrapper format. From the wrapper format, we'll convert that as an AMI. Each and everything we have a tool for doing that and set of commands for doing that. So then from the AMI, I'll launch my instance. One way of doing it. When I have a multiple instances, when I have multiple VMs or multiple on-prem servers, right? We have set of automations available. Little tedious task, but of course we need to do, right? So we have some set of automations available. Using that, we'll capture the multiple bulk migration things, and we'll do. Coming to the database perspective, right? When you have managing your MySQL or MS SQL, any kind of SQL databases, even in AWS itself, we have migration services. If you want, we can go use that as well. For database migration, we have used the inbuilt migration tool, which helps me to capture the data from on-premises to cloud. That is the one way. Also, if you go to the RDS console, we have option restore from S3. Okay, that way we can capture using the backup tool, right? From on-prem environment, I'll capture the backup. I'll again push it to S3. From S3, from the backup source, I can restore it to any of my RDS instances. Again, database migration also behind the screen, there are huge migration strategy which involves the huge team will be working on. Yeah, for your question, I've answered very high level. Hope this is giving you clarity. These are the way, basically we follow come to migration. Soumya.
Okay, Hari.
All right.
Hey, Hari, tell me about how can you ensure that your cloud environment is so secure?
So regarding my cloud environment is secure, okay. So for ensuring security, right, I'll start from the basic. Basic in the sense each and every instances, right? They'll be having their own security group. That is a base level of security. Also, we users, we'll never ensure to generate access key, secret key unnecessarily. By the way, creating service accounts are strictly prohibited in our environment. We follows role-based authentication in our environment. And point number 3, I would tell we have well secured VPC configuration. All the VPCs we have configured with the proper ACL rules actually. And we don't provide any public connectivity directly to any one of our VPC. Whatever the public connectivity I needed, of course, I'll take it from a different way by using NAT or by using from direct connect from my on-premises where I'll get the internet connection and all. So I don't directly use direct internet gateway or something things. And of course, across our platform, any of the user or any of the engineers are using outside our network, we strongly recommend them to use through VPN. Apart from VPN, they won't be able to connect to our environment. That is another way of security we have enabled. And we have security hub service has been enabled where there is any impact or something things will be getting alert from the security hub. And we do have AWS config in place. Is there any we have some set of standard for our organization. When somebody is beyonding or any anonymous activity happening in my account, right, I'll be getting notified from the AWS config, security hub, and guard duty. And we do have some for managing complaints, right? Complaint management, we have a set of tool, kind of domain kind of tool we have involved. We have integrated those kind of security tools with our infrastructure. Even from there, right, we have some set of standards. So all it will be triggered from the tool. So likewise, right, these are the area which I am giving my WAF. We have a WAF everywhere. We have configured with Palo Alto firewall for filtering my network related traffic. So across whatever the loophole usually will have, right, everything we have fulfilled. We have make sure an infrastructure is secure for now. So we are pretty much giving more concentration to our infrastructure and customers data security. That is our main scope actually. So this is our security best practice which we follows in our current platform.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, Hari. What are the best tools which you will suggest for a DevOps automation, for a DevOps lifecycle? What are the best tools you can say?
Yeah, of course, Venkatesh. So it's not about best tool. It's all about it's a requirement. What tool we're gonna use. It's all about mostly we'll give preference to the open source, maximum the way, because we don't want a customer to offer a license for each and everything. Okay. So yeah, when you take a DevOps, obviously any pipeline tool is mandatory. So we would prefer to go with Jenkins. Even we have a code build, code commit available with AWS itself, but since Jenkins is open source and widely used by everyone, so we prefer Jenkins. Also, it's easy to integrate with all other tools as well. We have plugins available. For infrastructure as a code, right, we prefer Terraform, and we use Ansible for configuration management purposes. For scripting perspective, we use Boto3 library for automation. And yeah, Docker and Kubernetes we are using for containerization and microservice related. We use Docker and Kubernetes. And of course, we have ELK stack for log management and centralized log mechanism oriented. So using these are the tools, right? I think we are for source code management we use GitHub as well as Bitbucket. It depends on the customers. Whatever they want, they can go with that. Earlier we were using SVN, but now we are not using it. We are nowadays we are currently with the GitHub and Bitbucket. Yeah, we are slowly launching our GitLab as well. Some of the customers they wanted to go with the GitLab based one. So these are the tools currently we are using, and I even comfortable to work with for any DevOps automation environment, right? I think these are the tools is really recommend to go as per my knowledge. We have plenty of tools. These are my preferences. Venkatesh.
Okay. Fine. So you said about some container orchestration tool, right, which is EKS cluster. So let me give us a scenario. Just there is an EKS cluster. Okay, so that has some application deployments. So, but it is not accessible. So how will you troubleshoot it? What will be the root cause?
Okay, just to understand your question, you mean to say deployment. I mean, there is a customer application available in Kubernetes cluster which is not able to access, right? Okay.
Yeah, you are right.
Okay, so when we have a cluster, of course, just imagine we have a Kubernetes cluster which plays in an AWS EKS. So what happens when customers they are not able to access the application? Just imagine that the application is web application. So basically, that should be come out of my deployments, right? So I'll check into the deployment and deployment logs and deployment events. So and what is the status of my replica set? And when I'm checking the status of my replica set, obviously I'll came to know about the part status as well. So where I could see how many number of parts, 4 parts or 5 parts or 10 parts, whatever belongs to the deployment. I need to check the healthy status of available status of all the parts. Okay, just imagine 5 parts are belongs to the deployment. First, I will look into the pod availability. If all the parts are available, I'll get into the each pod. I'll check for the whether I'll be able to utilization of each pod and the respective node where the pod is exactly created. Once the utilization everything is okay, I have an option to check kubectl log commands to go through the logs, what is the impact happened, and I will check whether expose the services everything is available properly. Is there any ingress rule has been configured properly? If ingress rule are configured, what is the status of that load balancers? What type of ingress they have configured? And by seeing the event of pod, by seeing the logs of pod, I'll check for any error message comes. Okay, based on the error message, I'll start troubleshoot it further. So end of the day, right, I need to know when that exactly gets stopped. Is there any recent maintenance activity, anything has been done? Okay, when the service got interrupted, right, I need to know when is there any recent maintenance activity, anything done. Of course, end to end, I need to check if everything okay in the perspective of Kubernetes and deployment part side. I need to check any DNS entries and anything having any problem, because clients are trying to access from public, right? So these are the aspects are there to troubleshoot the issue. I need to check each and every area to identify the issue on page.
Okay, so consecutive of this question, that may be any chance due to the part update. Okay, so because of that also the service may down. So in that case, how will you update the latest part in your cluster?
Okay, so coming to pod update, it's totally belongs to the image what we used in backend. So it's about updating the packages or updating security fixes, something like that. So what I need to do, obviously, for doing this activity, definitely we need a downtime. We need to get the proper downtime. We need to, there may be chances of, restarting pod or something stuff. So obviously, I'll do that all this activity on my change window only. Okay, when I'm doing, I'll get the approval first for change. Once any weekend or any customer non-production window, I'll start doing the such activity. First, I'll check what image has been used for this part creation. That I can check it in the deployment itself, or even I can check it in the kubectl describe command. I can check what image has been used. When that image has been last updated, I need to check is there any available updates or security updates, anything available for the image. I need to check if anything to be available, right? I need to take that image. I need to update all those things. I'll first test it in my test environment. If everything works fine, what I will do, I'll come to my deployment. Obviously, the parts will not be created directly. That should be created through any one of the deployment only. So I can use the kubectl edit command or update image command, whatever the command. I'll update with the latest image. Whatever I've tested right in my test environment, I need to update with the updated image. By the way, the part will be recreating so that I'll check whether my application everything is running properly. Of course, I would have tested everything in my test sandbox environment itself. For crash verifying, I'll check once again in the production environment as well. By the way, I can go for updating the pod, and so if you are doing in this way, right, pods will be in consistent state, and also there won't be any issues by consistency perspective and stateful set of any of this application. Once that's been done, we'll be come out from the maintenance window. We can make the clusters available for people to use.
Okay, fine, Hari. So you talked about something change activity, right? So how will you manage the change activity generally? Can you elaborate it?
Sure, I can brief about the change. Basically, if you go any environment, there will be a change change advisory board. Whatever the changes I'm going to perform in my current production environment, obviously I need to get approval from the people. We have a ticketing tool. We use Jira. In the Jira, we'll be creating a change task. So there will be a reviewer, service delivery managers will be there. So every week, right, there are 3 categories of change we have: emergency change, standard change, and basic change request. Mostly we'll go with standard change. Emergency changes are critical. Some need to be immediately updated. So for these activities, right, I can probably go for a standard change request. I'll be creating it. I'll be providing the what is the impact, what is the rollout plan, what is the change implementation, what is the necessity of this change. Everything I'll need to specify in the change document as well as in the change request. They will be reviewing it. My change advisory board team, I mean my SDMs, will be reviewing it. Once their good looks good, this is really needed for now, they'll provide their approval. Sometimes they will reject the change also if any insufficient data we have provided or the change is not valid. Okay, we have any alternate way to do any suggestion they have, they will reject the change. If suppose they have rejected, we need to rework on the change to get it approved. Once it got approved, right, will be defined change window will be there. Either maximum will be Saturday, Sunday on half business hours. So we'll go on the get on a call with the team. We'll be implementing the change. Behind the screen, these are the process we follows. Venkatesh, this is about our change process currently we follows.
Yes, thank you. Fine. Yes, so Satish, can you go ahead?
Hey, Hari. Tell about your AWS authentication principal mechanism. Upgrade your platform.
AWS authentication principle. Yeah, of course. Since we have 1 or 2 accounts, it's fine with going with creating IAM user and all things. And since we have lots of accounts, we purely go with role-based authentication. Okay, role-based authentication in the sense I can tell you even we have an identity provider from my Active Directory dedicated team available. IAM team we used to call. From the Active Directory team, we'll be generating the SAML and certificate and things and stuff. We'll be integrating in our AWS account. So by the way, right, we'll be able to create a role which has federation enabled. So we'll be able to log in using a role-based authentication. Okay, we'll strictly never follows IAM user-based authentication. Okay, and also all the accounts are belongs to my AWS organization-based services, right? Where we'll be having again assume role-based authentication also possible from there as well. So mostly we have a STS assume role concepts as well as role-based authentication we follow in our environment primarily. So every users, right, are integrated from my Active Directory. So from there everything gets synced based on the schedule. This is how we apply our authentication strategy.
Yes, sir, Hariran. Can you tell about any Jenkins pipeline flow?
Yes, ma'am. So basically, Jenkins pipeline. Maybe I'll explain about recently we have done one automation. I'll tell about it. So every my Kubernetes cluster, right, it's hard for me to give access to all of our users. So what we have decided, we can go with dedicated pipeline for the activity. What the pipeline will do, once I create the pipeline in Jenkins, once you trigger the pipeline, it will ask for the Kubernetes information and all. Whatever the code you wanted to test or whatever the deployment you wanted to do it in the Kubernetes, right? You can done it from this Jenkins pipeline itself. Behind the spin of this pipeline, right? I've integrated the pipeline using Kubernetes. Okay. I'm using SSH agent plugin to authenticate my Kubernetes cluster from my Jenkins. All my source code, everything will be available in GitHub. Okay, that is my source code repository from my Jenkins, right? So it will be reached out to my GitHub repository. So from the GitHub repository, it will fetch the code. Jenkins will process locally. So then it will check, next stage. It will be a multi-stage pipeline. First stage, it will clean the workspace. Second stage, it will get the source code from the GitHub. Third stage, right, it will try to apply the YAML file for my Kubernetes. Okay, that way we have done one pipeline recently. We have done. We do have other few pipelines as well. This pipeline, right, will create my customized image AMI golden AMIs. It will launch the instance automatically. It will install whatever the plugins or any packages need to be installed, right? That will be getting installed in that instance. Finally, right, it will capture the AMI. So that will be shared across my accounts. Okay, that way also we have done our pipeline. So either way, right, we have a lots of plugins. We have Terraform based pipelines are available when I run the one. it will trigger my Terraform, it will trigger my CloudFormation template. So resources are being provisioned. So many pipelines we have. These are few as an example.
Okay, Reverend. So it's really good. Can you tell about AMI hardening and compliance standard, which you know?
Yeah, of course. So we have, CA's compliance, where we used to make sure our image, whatever the image customers are using, right, that should be hardened as per our, industry standard. And each and every security, registry level, each and every security aspects have to be addressed. We'll have antivirus should be already in place. So our end goal, right, when customer creating the instance from the provided AMI, all the packages, all the security component, all the monitoring agents, all the antiviruses, everything should be pre-packed actually. So when they provision the instance, obviously that that particular, the image, the instance should have all these components. Addition to that, we have many security things are available in local GPU level. We need to modify if it is Linux based, right? We have many security aspects are there. We need to enable that. By the way, my customer don't want to, they don't want to do it after instance creation. Everything is pre-packed. Everything has a restriction limitation based upon our standards. End of the day, we are calling this as a hardened AMI. So in our environment, people are recommended to use only the hardened AMI. They are not supposed to use direct market-based AMI. AMIs, AWS provided AMI, their own custom AMI. It's not strictly, it's prohibited. They can't even use because we have a policy in place where if you have all these things, only those are the items you will be able to use it. This way we manage our hardened processing. For that also we have a Jenkins pipeline.
Okay, Hari. So next question is, just consider there is an AWS account under the organization service, but now the problem is not able to log into that AWS account. So tell me how will we troubleshoot this one?
Okay, so when I'm having issue with logging into the account, so of course we can try to log in using root credential. Okay, sometimes. So what is the case is sometimes when the account comes from organization, we have a SCP in place where root login also restricted. So since if we have any IAM user, anything like that, we can log in using that IAM user. We can try individual login using root account. If that is not possible in the case, right? Yeah, since you said the account comes from AWS organization, when we are adding any account to AWS organization, there will be assume role will be created. Assume role is an STS authentication role from my AWS root account to the Spark account, where I'm facing the issue, right? From that account, we'll be having an assume role. In AWS master account, I can log in the console. There is an option called switch role. I can give switch role. By the way, I'll be logging to that account. I can try to log into that account. I can, check what is the issue. Is there anything to be modified? Something like that. I can do the modification and things and stuff. So after that, I'll try to log in from my master account itself. I'll log into my Spark account. I'll try to validate it using the switch role access.
Okay, Hari. Please start from your side.
Yes. Continuing with Soumya's question. So how can you import the Active Directory users? So we are talking about organization service, right? So how can you import the Active Directory users into the AWS account, or how can you make them to log in with AWS accounts? I'm asking about Active Directory authentication.
Okay. So okay. So we have multiple way to do that. One, I can say AWS SSO can be enabled for that. So when you enable the AWS SSO, single sign-on from your AWS single sign-on, we have to coordinate with our Active Directory team. The Active Directory team will be generating some XML certificates and XML sample provider, everything. We need to integrate that into our AWS SSO. Okay, by integrating that, we'll establish a communication from my Active Directory Federation services to my AWS. So over there, you need to create multiple groups and the role as per your convenient, as per your requirement. There will be a dedicated IAM authentication teams available. They will help us to establish the SSO connectivity between my AWS account to this one. I mean to say Active Directory to AWS. So in the SSO service, right, we'll be creating some permission sets and all. In the permission set, we'll define, okay, these are the group, what will be the access privilege for them. All these things I'll be defining in the permission set under the AWS SSO. So using that, right, the connectivity got established. So we can have a sync between my Active Directory to AWS SSO service. By the way, we will be able to do it, Venkatesh.
Okay, nice. But other than the AWS SSO, any other services is equal to Active Directory in the AWS cloud?
Yeah, I think we do have some directory services available. It's same work as pretty much like our Active Directory. And even in AWS organization itself, if you go, there is a identity provider option is there. Okay, where you can generate a SAML certificate from a Active Directory. You can add that certificate into our AWS organization identity provider. If you are managing individual accounts, right, since you are not having your Active Directory, when you are managing your individual account, the SAML identity provider, you can add it in the individual account itself. In IAM itself, each individual IAM account itself, you have option to add. Otherwise, if you are centrally managing things, means AWS organization level, you have option to add it. Over there, you can create a permission set. You can map to your respective Spark accounts. So that way also we can handle. For equivalent to Active Directory, we have a directory services available in AWS.
Fine. So we discussed about that users, how to enable the Active Directory users in AWS. What about computers, which I mean to say like servers? So domain user, as you suggested, either we can go for AWS SSO or directory service. How can you add the servers into the domain, the AWS cloud?
So what we have to do, we need have a two option. Either you keep your Active Directory server in your AWS itself as one of the instance. Either it could be a child domain or additional domain controller from your on-premises. From your AWS to on-premises Active Directory where you're having, right, that should have the proper communication. Okay, network level, you need to have a communication. By the way, in the AWS end, you can configure as a child domain or additional domain controller, whichever is convenient, we can configure it. What are the instances we are creating, right? We can make sure that will be reporting to this AWS instance. Okay, that way we can do. Otherwise, we have a DNS IP of on-prem. We can configure that DNS IP in the AWS server level. We'll make sure all these servers are part of that particular domain. It's up to our convenient and the architecture only, how the way we are gonna, whether we can configure, we can keep your local child domain, we can add all of them over under the child domain. Otherwise, directly we can add them into our on-prem. That is not a good way, I believe. We are technically possible, but little complicated. Better we can keep on child domain controller, make sure that it comes under my primary Active Directory. All the instances here, they can be part of my child domain controller. That is the best way, I believe, as per my knowledge. That way we can ensure my computers are being part of my Active Directory. I mean the servers, EC2 instances as part of my domain.
Okay, so in that case, how can you manage the DNS? How do you suggest the best way? Whether you can go with any AWS service. Now you suggested one child domain controller can be in the AWS account, and we can connect our server to the domain. The same way, are you suggesting any DNS server to be hosted, or how can you?
Either in AWS domain server itself, you can have a DNS service can be enabled, or if you want to keep separate DNS server, you can go for it. But AWS providing inbuilt service called Route 53. Either there also you can create your private hosted zone or a public hosted zone as per your need. We can keep all our A record, PTR record, everything, CNAME record, everything can be configured in the Route 53 itself. So we do have a Route 53 resolver. Okay, when you have a multiple account where you need to integrate your VPCs with your Route 53s, right? We can make sure to have a resolver, AWS Route 53 resolver, we can configure it. Either Route 53 general zone creation or Route 53 resolver, or we can have a local DNS server. These are the options are there. For error resolution purpose, record management purpose, we can go with any one of this.
Okay. So just consider a scenario, we are not going with Route 53 or Route 53 resolver. Instead, as you suggested in the first way, which is a child domain controller, there itself we can have a DNS or a dedicated DNS server. So how can you integrate that DNS server with the AWS network?
Okay. So basically, since if you said that DNS server is available in on-premises, from AWS, we need to establish the either VPN or direct connect to your on-premises. There obviously will have a firewall or router, things will be there in your on-premises. In your AWS, right, we have a two option. Either we can go with the direct connect, little expensive, but reliable one. And VPN we can go for, site-to-site VPN we can configure to our on-premises data center. By the way, your AWS will start communicate privately to whatever the VPCs you are having in your AWS, right? That VPC will start communicate privately to on-premises environment. Since when you have an on-premises environment, whatever the EC2 instances we have in AWS, right, they all will be ready to communicate with your on-premises servers as well. So what you can do, you can configure that DNS IP. We can in AWS in DHCP option set, we need to specify DNS IP as my on-premises DNS server IP. By the way, whatever the instances I'm provisioning, right, by default, all my instances will get assigned. This is my DNS IP from DHCP option set. So by the way, the name resolution will happen each other, since whatever the record or whatever, if for example, if I'm doing NS lookup also, it will get it done from my on-prem DNS server. If I'm searching for any site, that will go via through my on-prem DNS server. These are the connectivity and possibility to make sure to have that DNS server for my environment.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Adish, can you?
Yes, sir. Tell me about how will you ensure to identify threat detection and anomaly detection in your platform?
Threat detection, anomaly detection. Okay. So we have guard duty enabled across our platform. First of all, guard duty, the basic, it's machine learning kind of service where it will make sure to enable, by default it will be enabled on all the accounts. We have a guard duty master account. In my AWS organization account, we are planned to make it as a guard duty master account. All the accounts will report to this master account. Okay. So whatever the any threat detection or any IAM level or any anomaly detection, whatever, my machine learning service will capture that. We have a distribution list for that. It will notify to the monitoring team. So monitoring team will be notifying to the respective account owner. So that way we are ensuring there is no threat detection in our environment. This way we are secure. Guard duty is the inbuilt tool we are using.
It's really good.
Yes, sorry. So hope you have some hands-on experience with the Lambda function as well. So take a scenario, your Lambda function doesn't trigger, even though you added some trigger, but it doesn't make a function. So what would be the root cause and how will you troubleshoot it?
Oh, Lambda function. Okay. So when you come to Lambda function, it's an inbuilt serverless, or a serverless application which is provided by AWS, which support all the tools. So we have, faced recently some issue. We have recently onboarded a new account where we have event-based trigger we are in place, which means whenever I create a bucket, right, the bucket should automatically encrypt with the defined key. That is the responsibility of the Lambda function. Because sometimes user forgot to enable the bucket. That's against our security standard. So we are enforcing user to encrypt the bucket by using this Lambda. This is a common Lambda we have in place across every account actually. What happened in the new account, that Lambda trigger which was not happening. I've checked into the event bridge JSON. We have through JSON we have configured. The JSON is telling all about when Cloud Trial API event occurs. Create bucket event. That event bridge trigger have to notify to this Lambda. The Lambda will go into the respective bucket. It will fetch that from the JSON metadata. It will fetch the bucket name. It will. We have already defined the KMS key for encryption. Symmetric CMK, customer managed key only. Using that key, it have to be encrypt my bucket. So REST encryption, end-to-end, HTTP communication, REST encryption, everything are ensured. So the trigger was not happening. When I'm checking into it, event based trigger was not triggering, but JSON code and whatever the code we have given for the trigger, it was working only. When I cross checked with other working account also, it's absolutely same code only. We have copy pasted, we are doing the same thing. It's not working again. So finally I came to know cloud trial was not enabled in that particular region. Due to that, not a default cloud trial. We have to additionally we need to create a cloud trial. Due to that reason, this event was not triggered by the Lambda. We have identified, then we have enabled the cloud trial, separate cloud trial for that region. Then it started working. That was the one issue recently I faced, and sometime we faced Lambda timed out also. By default, Lambda will work for 14 to 15 minutes only if you give any script. If any Lambda runs beyond that, it will not run. It will get timed out. You need to ensure to check whether your Lambda code which will execute within the 15 minutes. When you have a more than 15 minutes, you need to plan with step functions in Lambda. By the way, we can ensure to have an extended functionality of Lambda. And we need to write a business logic in such a way that have to be completed within 15 minutes. So these are the area we need to check, Venkatesh, in terms of Lambda failure and trigger issues and all those stuff.
Okay. So is there any way to check those Lambda error logs?
Of course, yes.
You
Right.
said like,
Yeah. Of course, yes. Like when you have a Lambda, so if you go to the logs, it'll redirect to the CloudWatch log groups, where you can identify is there any issue in the program level or any logic level you have any issues. Anything can be identified over there. Of course, across every AWS, we have a cloud trial also available as a built event capturing system. In the event you can find it exact log and error related information. For troubleshooting purpose, obviously we need to go for CloudWatch log group. Each and every function will be creating its own log group. Inside the log group, we'll have option to identify the errors and things and stuff regarding to this Lambda.
okay, fine.
Okay.
So again, the CloudWatch. So what are the other purpose you'll use those CloudWatch and Cloud Trial? One scenario now is there any other problem which you faced recently or any other scenario?
Yeah, so there is no problem with the CloudWatch, but recently, we have enabled alarm for our critical servers actually from the CloudWatch. So since we are using different monitoring, New Relic and SolarWind is the primary monitoring tool or environment. So we don't use CloudWatch as much for monitoring, since our L1 team, proactively monitoring New Relic and SolarWind. So CloudWatch we are not using for identifying the resource monetization, but we'll get the metrics alerts. Is there anything utilization related things and stuff? Immediately I wanted to get it from AWS console we'll use it, but that too very rare since we are having option from all New Relic and SolarWind we'll able to do it. But it's inbuilt functionality, right? We'll be using it. And alarm purpose we'll use maximum. Like we'll set up the alarm if any server utilization crashed more than this threshold, it will notify us. That alarm we can configure it. Yeah, this purpose we have an option to go with CloudWatch. So and cloud trial we have a trial, and after 90 days, right, from the trial will be storing all the log into my S3 buckets. Centralized we are having S3 bucket. It will store it in the S3 bucket. From that S3 bucket only my ELK stack is getting all the events and processing it. In addition to that, we do have Athena query. Using AWS Athena, we'll be processing that logs and we'll be doing some things and stuff. So this way we having in place, Venkatesh.
Okay, yes. Sadish, Soumya, if you have any other questions, you can.
No, Venkatesh, that's it from my end.
Okay, fine, Soumya.
Please go to. That's it from me.
Okay, there is one more final question. Hope you have some awareness on the load balancer services in the AWS. So what are the services which you can suggest for load balance AWS? And if it has multiple services, what are the difference between them?
So basically, yeah, under EC2, you have an option for load balancing, like classic load balancer. I think this month it's going to expire, outdate, it's going to be no more. And apart from that, we have application load balancer, network load balancer, and gateway load balancer we have. So classic load balancer, I can say it's null intelligent, it's blindly transfer the request between the nodes, whichever part of the load balancer, and quite expensive as well. Okay, so coming to application load balancer, it has intelligence, like based on the rule what we define, it can analyze the packet, it can forward that request to the behind the nodes. But the thing is, ALB, you cannot directly attach your your cluster nodes behind these application load balancers. What you can do, either you will have a target group, behind the target group only you can add your nodes, right? So health check, everything have to be managed under the target group itself. But here you have an option to integrate your forwarding rules and things and stuff. We do have an option to, from certificate manager, I can generate a SSL certificate from my load balancer. I have an option to add it to the load balancer. If you go to the listeners tab, I can point HTTPS 443 from the certificate whatever I've generated. I can integrate to this site. That can be done. Coming to the network load balancer, we are only using for ultra high performance. Yeah, each load balancer has the TCP protocol. Classic load balancer works on the particular TCP protocol transport layer. Application load balancer works on layer 7 application layer. Similar way, network load balancers, maximum people will use for ultra high performance for UDP transmit. Okay, where we don't need a three-way handshakings. So UDP transmit, we use a network protocol. And gateway protocol, I never used it. I think it's recent type of AWS gateway load balancer. I never been into that. There is no such use case we have received as of now for gateway load balancer. So these are the different types of load balancer and differences between each and everything. Venkatesh.
Yes, fine. So which load balancer will you suggest for the Kubernetes cluster parts?
Yeah, ALB we can go for application load balancer. When I prefer, when I create ingress rules, that I am in the ingress YAML file itself, I'll specify ALB and the target type is IP, and I'll add the SSL certificate URL. Everything I'll specify in the YAML manifest itself. So when I execute that ingress YAML manifest from my AWS load balancer ingress controller, it will get it created by ingress rule and load balancer, everything being created actually. I would go with ALB, application load balancer, out of all these.
Okay, fine. Regarding the application load balancer again, have you worked with microservices attached with the application load balancer? Could you please explain the same?
Yeah, of course. Coming to the microservices, each service will do their small particular work. So where in my Kubernetes, right, we had implemented recent on activity where the centralized on application, when customer coming to the application, they'll get almost everything, shopping related items, their ticket booking related items, they are entertainment related items, everything will be there in some game playing like online itself. That kind of everything is integrated in a single application. We made a dedicated API for each and every activity. So we obviously, yeah, we have in the single ingress file, we have one primary domain, customerdomain.com something. We had a subdomain for that. In the subdomain, what you have done, shopping.soandso.com. Like that, we have categorized. We have created a multiple ingress for that. Okay, in the each and every ingresses, right, we have a each and every microservices, respective services has been created in my Kubernetes. And for in the ALB, right, we had a rule actually. Each and every rule we have pointed when you are reaching to that, it will have to redirect to the specific service route like that. This has been everything defined in the ingress.yaml file itself. When you go to spec section, each and every spec we can define it. This is the particular URL, it should point to the service. Like that we have specified over there. By the way, we have architected that microservice based multi API application. Like that.
Okay, fine. So talking about images regarding the parts. So what are the repositories you have used to store the images?
We use default one Docker Hub, Amazon ECR we use, and Nexus private repository we have. Depends upon the need and people, right? We prefer to go with any one of these.
Okay. Again, coming to from a previous one of a question, you suggested for most of the DevOps tools, which is open source. Correct. So in that case, why you are moving with AWS EKS? So we have do you have any alternate workflows of EKS?
Yes, we can go with on-prem based clusters, but we are lagging with some features like auto scaling, load balancer, and all, and generating certificates. All those little difficult process when come to on-prem. Or even we can go with creating individual instances. We can configure the cluster our own, but again, master node we have to take care of it. When I go to ELK, EKS cluster, where master node has been taken care of by AWS, only I need to take care of worker nodes. We do have some more options of the Fargate serverless Kubernetes cluster management, where worker node as well as master node, everything is taken care by AWS. So it is easy for me to manage my clusters. So even though I'm spending some money, end of the day I'm getting some good outcome from AWS. So that's what we all good to go with the EKS clusters.
Can you give us some comparison between the Docker Swarm and EKS cluster? What do you feel the differences?
Yeah, of course. Once in Docker initially, we don't have any proper high availability in the Docker. Basically, that's why Docker Swarm and EKS came. When come to Docker Swarm, right, it supports only container runtime as a Docker. We cannot integrate any other container runtime. Of course, it's also working in the same principle of master worker node concepts only. But people know, people are widely easy. It's cloud providers are integrated. Kubernetes is one of the service to their cloud platform, which became Kubernetes got very much famous. The advantage here is it's providing you clear, highly available resources. So comparing to Docker Swarm, it's very easy for us to monitor all these things. All these things are additional plugins and things are easily available compared to Docker Swarm. And troubleshooting also is much easy, very user friendly, and easy. Everyone easily adopt with Kubernetes, platform and things and stuff. If you are not, good with Docker runtime, we can have alternate, other container runtime also. Example like RKT, Rocket type of, Docker engine you can use. So we have a multiple other options. So we have very documentation, very good support. Many resources are available more for Kubernetes. So that way, Kubernetes is better compared to Docker Swarm.
In addition to that, we have a Docker networking, so we can customize the networking in the Docker. The same way, is there any networking option in the Kubernetes?
Yeah, of course, we have we have a dedicated team for managing this network and things and stuff. We can go with multiple namespaces. Each and every customization we can run it for network level also. We have a queue proxy available in build as one of the service that is taking care of the communication between one part to another part. And we have a IPAM, IP address management from my base VPC and subnets, right? The IPs are being distributed to all my parts. So by the way, we can manage our networks as
well. Okay. Yes. Fine. I think you have done very well. Yeah, I think it's good to close. What about other guys? Your suggestion?
Yes, sir. So it's really good explanation for all questions. All the best for your future.
Thank you. Thank you, team.
Really great.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Yes, sorry. We'll get back to you.
All right. Thank you.